Something strange happened with a cruise ship lifeboat. A heartbreaking FBI investigation on board Carnival Horizon is now raising new disturbing questions, and Disney Cruise Line just sparked a whole new wave of viral debate. All because of a surprise banned item. And if that weren't enough drama, one Royal Caribbean passenger found himself kicked off the ship while his family, well, they did something surprising, but I'll share that with you in a moment. Hi, I'm Melissa, a university professor who loves to cruise and who loves to talk ship. Now, there's a moment on every cruise where you look out at the lifeboats dangling outside your balcony thinking, I hope these things work, and also I hope there's enough of them for everybody on the ship, because sometimes it seems like the math ain't mathin'. Well, anyway, Carnival Dream gave everyone a little too much proof of that this week. During a routine safety drill in Cozumel, one of the ship's lifeboats broke loose, bounced off the side of the ship, and dropped straight down into the water. Now, it was empty, thankfully, but the splash was huge and the video made the rounds quickly. Now, Carnival said that the latch caught while lowering the boat, causing it to stick and then fall when the weight shifted. The ship still met all of its lifeboat capacity requirements, and the cruise continued on. But this has cruisers asking whether drills are as routine as we think and if these lifeboats are actually safe. Honestly, it's a good reminder that even well-maintained equipment can fail. And I do know there's probably someone that had an obstructed ocean view balcony that probably was pretty happy to see that lifeboat go. But I want to know what you think. Do you feel secure and safe with the lifeboats on cruise ships, or do you think they're not quite adequate enough? Now, if that were not unsettling enough, the FBI is investigating and releasing new information about a heartbreaking case on board Carnival Horizon. Now, I talked about this last week. This is huge news in cruise world. It's just continuing to make the rounds, and as new details come out, it's just getting more and more disturbing. Now, I will say, I've heard a lot of this stuff in the rumor mill. I'm trying not to perpetuate the rumor mill, trying to be respectful of the family, but man, there's just a lot of questions that have cruisers talking. And now that law enforcement are being more open and releasing information about it, it just has cruisers talking even more. And this is even extending outside of the cruise world. It's hitting all of the true crime groups and all of the social media pages and things like that. But if you're not sure what I'm talking about, this case surrounds Anna Kepler. She died recently on Carnival Horizon. She's a young woman. Rumors at first were saying she was 16. Come to find out, she's 18. Her body was found underneath the bed in her stateroom, wrapped up in a blanket and life vest. Now, she had reportedly gone back to her cabin because she felt sick the night before, and her body was not discovered until the next morning when housekeeping attempted to clean the room. Now, authorities confirmed that there had been an earlier altercation involving her stepbrother, and of course, because this happened in international waters and because it involved a potential homicide, FBI took over the case once Carnival Horizon returned back to Port Miami. Now, cases like this are super rare, but when they happen, they're devastating. We're talking about the loss of a life of a young woman here. And the details that are coming out and the potential involvement of the stepbrother is really just disturbing. Now, I don't want to say too much because I only like to share what has been officially released, and for now, this is pretty much what we know. The news about the stepbrother's potential involvement is new information. There is a lot of rumors out there about the family. The family have been very active on social media, including on my page, asking people not to talk about it. And now that we're hearing more about who the potential perpetrator is, or at least who investigators are looking at, it makes a lot more sense of why their family wants to squelch this whole conversation. So I don't want to be part of the rumor mill. I'm just sharing what we know from law enforcement, but this is a very disturbing situation. And this is a reminder too of how we have to stay vigilant on cruise ships. And I have another story that's also heartbreaking and involving a kid that I'll tell you about in a minute, which is another disturbing reminder of why we have to keep eyes on our kids on a cruise ship, even if they're young adults. But for now, let's shift to something far lighter, but still viral. But this is fun viral. Disney Cruise Line was trending this week thanks to a confiscated item. Now, if you cruise a lot, you know there's a lot of things on the naughty list we're not allowed to bring on a cruise ship, things that you wouldn't even think about that are no problem taking on hotels or on land travel, right? So in this case, a woman shared her experience boarding the Disney Destiny, where security took her high wattage dryer, which was a Dyson dryer, and put it in what she called hair dryer jail. She even had to do that walk of shame at the end of the cruise. If the cruise lines do confiscate something of yours, you do get it back. They'll give you a claim check and they'll tell you why they took it. But after the cruise, you have to do your walk of shame to the confiscated items table to pick up your seized merchandise or your seized item. Now, Disney's rule has always been clear about high wattage appliances, but a Dyson, that's a high dollar item, and a lot of people are very loyal to their Dyson devices. So a lot of people were surprised to hear that this got confiscated. Now, what I love about the story is how it caused conversation with cruisers to ask, well, do I need to check my own hair tools? What's allowed, what's not allowed on my particular cruise? Now, this is a great reminder that every cruise line has slightly different rules, and often they do enforce them. Now, of course, you can slip things through. They don't catch everything, but people ask me all the time about what's allowed and what's not on cruise ships. But that's a tricky question to answer because it can be cruise line specific. For example, I've personally taken a high wattage hair dryer, being a Dyson, and even my Dyson Airwrap on several cruises on different cruise lines and never had an issue, although apparently Disney does not like them. And of course, the reason for this is high wattage hair dryers and hair appliances can blow a fuse, things like that. And the popular extension cords that every cruiser should always bring on every cruise, I always remind cruisers, bring your extension cord. You're gonna thank me later. Nearly all cruise lines allow extension cords as long as they are non-surge, except for one cruise line, which is Royal Caribbean. For some reason, they're super strict about this. I've had to make that walk of shame because I've had my extension cord seized on nearly every Royal Caribbean sailing. Interestingly enough, I just got off Radiance of the Seas, and this is the one time it actually got through. I forgot to leave it at home because I do use my extension cord at the airport, at the hotel before a cruise. It comes in super handy for a lot of reasons, and I actually got through with it. So sometimes you can, but usually they're gonna catch it. Now, I do have a video that you can check out about commonly banned items on cruise ships and cruise lines. But of course, always check with your specific cruise line, and I'll drop that video below if you want to check that out. But I want to know, have you ever had to make that walk of shame because something you brought on a cruise got confiscated? Now let's talk about a Royal Caribbean situation that had people debating all week long. Because what happened here is not uncommon, but this situation of how the family handled it, the reaction was to some people quite shocking. So this has kind of divided the cruise community, but I want to know what you think. Now, what happened here is a passenger, it's an Australian guy, was on Anthem of the Seas, and he was kicked off the ship in New Zealand after he got into a physical altercation with another guest. According to police, this man assaulted someone, he got a warning, but then he was removed from the sailing. Now, what makes this case unique, unfortunately, altercations are not unique on cruise ships. We see them go viral all the time, these stories, but what is unique is his family's reaction. His family basically said, bye-bye, and they stayed on board and continued the vacation without him. I can only imagine the vibe at dinner that night. Now, Royal Caribbean has been very clear that aggressive behavior violates their code of conduct. They take it very seriously. They will boot a guest at the next port if necessary, which they did in this case. They walked the walk, not just talked the talk. So this is a consequence that people sometimes don't take seriously until they hear stories like this. But what's interesting is that the family decided to not ruin their vacation because their family member was a complete bonehead. Now, I gotta say, I'm on the family side in this case. You act a fool, you play silly games, you're gonna win stupid prizes. I'm not gonna disrupt my cruise and spend a lot of money flying myself home on my own dime because you acted like a dummy. So I wanna know what you think. Would you continue the cruise if someone in your family or your party got removed? Or would you, in solidarity, get off with them and return home on your own dime? Now, another emotionally charged situation that happened in cruise world recently came on board Carnival Valor. On Carnival Valor, there's a crew member, Trevor Johnson, who's a member of the Fun Squad, who went viral after posting that Carnival forced him to leave the ship with 1 hour's notice. Yes, 1 hour of notice. He had already given his 2-week notice, which in regular world is pretty customary, but he says that Carnival abruptly told him, hey, pack your stuff and go. The ship was docked in Cozumel, and according to his post, he felt absolutely blindsided, shocked, and humiliated. And this one hit people differently depending on how they view working on a cruise ship. Anyone who's worked in hospitality knows that the rules are different when you're at sea working on a cruise ship. And a lot of crews say decisions like this happen more often than we as guests probably hear about. But it also reminds us that the friendly faces who make our vacations unforgettable, they're navigating tough jobs, tough schedules, strict policies, and stuff like this where they're treated, in at least this case, his own opinion of being disrespected when he did the right thing, put in 2 weeks notice, and was basically kicked off the ship right away without giving any notice or anything like that. But I want to know, do you think Carnival handled this fairly? Or should they have at least let him return to the port and get off the ship in a more humane way? And speaking of Carnival, we gotta talk about their second change to their ill-advised, ridiculous, stupid VIFP program overhaul. I've been very vocal about this. I am not a fan of the VIFP changes that Carnival announced earlier this year over the summer. I think they're ridiculous. I think it's a terrible move. I think the way they've handled this is absolutely disastrous. And with every change, I think it's actually making a bad situation even worse. Now, this recent change is something that a lot of Carnival cruisers are applauding, but I think it's a little ridiculous, and I'll tell you why. And actually, it feels like more of a slap in the face. But if you're not sure what I'm talking about, Carnival just released a few days ago that their new spending-based loyalty program called Carnival Rewards, this is replacing their old VIFP program, is now being delayed, the implementation of it, from June of 2026 back to September of 2026. So a lot of Carnival cruisers were rejoicing. Those people that have been chasing status, trying to get from gold to platinum or platinum to diamond, they're super excited now that they have extra time, and during those summer months where it's easier for most people to travel, to get enough points or days at sea to get to that next level. And if you get to diamond, that's much better than platinum because diamond cruisers have been grandfathered in a lot of ways, which is one of the changes that they've made since they initially rolled out the program. Now, while some people are rejoicing this, I think this is a money grab. I think this is Carnival moving the goalpost. Why? Because when they announced this change, there were a lot of cruisers frantically booking cruises trying to chase points, chase their status. And Carnival exacerbated this flurry of bookings this fall when they targeted a special promotion to certain cruisers, mostly casino players, offering 2 and 3 times the days at sea earned to help people get to that next level of status faster. And that really created a firestorm and a flurry of bookings as people are chasing status. So a lot of people went out of their way, stretching budgets, taking time off work that they probably didn't have to try to get that cruise booked before the end of the spring so they could take advantage of these deals and try to get to that next level of status, specifically from platinum to diamond. And now to find out, well, I booked a cruise, it's non-refundable. I did it solely for the purpose to get enough points or days at sea to get to that next level of status. And now Carnival has moved the goalpost. They've kicked this back to September. So it's great for people who haven't booked yet, for people who are close to that next tier, but it stinks for me. So I feel really badly for people that are in that situation. And what I'm afraid is going to happen is that Carnival is going to continue to kick that date back or change the program again. As I mentioned, this is their second time they've changed this program already, and it has been just a colossal disaster. But the good news is, if you're a glass half full person, this delay does give people 3 more months to sail under the current system. So if you are chasing the points and status, you're chasing platinum or diamond, this could be the sign that you're waiting for. As for me, I'm platinum. I'm not going to bother trying to chase status and hit diamond because I don't trust Carnival. This whole debacle has actually changed my loyalty to Carnival, and no longer is Carnival my default cruise line. I will cruise Carnival. I still like Carnival. I still say I'm Carnival's #1 fan, but I'm not loyal to them anymore because they've shown that they're not loyal to me. And even if I do chase diamond status and achieve it before this now pushback date, who's to say they're going to honor this lifetime status? Because they've already proven that lifetime status means nothing to them. Now, another headline caught the entire cruising community attention this week, and it sparked more than a few panicked messages on social media. Passengers on board Carnival Radiance heard a huge splash off the side of the ship while sailing near Ensenada, and they thought that someone had gone overboard. The crew immediately followed protocol, locking down the ship, doing the emergency call, starting a full passenger count, and launching a search. And of course, cruisers on that sailing turned to social media to say, oh my gosh, we have a man overboard. Now, after everything was accounted for, the dust settled, they determined it was a false alarm, likely caused by a whale breach. Videos of the moment spread fast and furious though, because people are always terrified if something happens like this, especially if you have a loved one that's on a cruise ship that you hear is a potential man overboard alert. So thank goodness in this case, it was a false alarm, but man overboard scenarios are unfortunately not that uncommon. And in this case, I'm just glad it was a false alarm. And finally, a very serious moment, kind of coming back to this Anna Kepler case of why we have to stay vigilant. I know on a cruise ship, we feel like we're in a contained environment. There's cameras everywhere. It's basically a terrible place to commit a crime. It really is, but people do still commit crimes. And this is another very serious case that reminds us of that. Recently, a federal jury in Miami convicted a 67-year-old passenger of abusive sexual contact involving a child on Royal Caribbean's Icon of the Seas. According to court documents, the man approached 2 boys in a corridor during a cruise and touched the 7-year-old child inappropriately. Security footage confirmed the incident. As I mentioned, a cruise ship is a terrible place to commit a crime, but that doesn't mean people don't still perpetrate crimes. So it was caught on camera, and it was pretty much a slam dunk case because of that. And this man now faces a possible life sentence as well as deportation after serving his time. It's a heavy case, it's an awful situation, but it does again reinforce that we have to stay vigilant on cruises. Parents often hear cruises are safe for kids. I do absolutely believe that. I think cruises are very safe. I think they're safer compared to land vacations, and they are overwhelmingly safe. But it's important to not get that sense of of complacency when we're on a cruise, thinking, well, there's cameras everywhere, I see security, it's a contained environment, I can let my kids run free without supervision, because that's not always the case.